Welcome back to the Pet Air Podcast. Today we have Mark Carter from This Little Dog of Mine out of Austin, Texas. He's going to be talking about how to bridge the gap from being a hobbyist in the pet industry to being a full-time business owner. It's a few things that he's done, transitions he's made, and things he's learned over the decade being in the pet industry. I want to welcome Mark to the show.
Hey guys, how are y'all doing?
So, Mark, go into a little bit of your frustrations because this is a pet era. So, we get right into the juice here. You're going into hobbyists versus pet pros. Tell us more about that.
So I believe just like with the involvement of the pet sitting industry, people see everything online and how the pet industry is a $1 billion industry. So, you have all the influencers online from Instagram and Facebook, like, oh, easy ways to make side hustles. And people always at the top of the list, it's becoming a pet sitter or a dog walker. But being a pet sitter and a dog walker is way more than a side hustle, is more than just a hobby. And so I feel like when people come into this industry, they have to start providing more respect for it and more value, because a lot goes into being a professional pet sitter and a professional dog walker, and not just showing up and having your neighbor come over and provide pet sitting services for you, and the value that we bring to families as a professional company.
Right. What would you say the mindset is for someone who's kind of just starting off? So I would say the majority of pet business owners don't think that they're going to hit six figures plus doing this. They're like, hey, let me just see what I can do. Let me get a few clients and go from there. What do you think the mindset is from starting as a hobby potentially, but then officially switching over the mindset of a business owner or
I think
seeing it as a business?
I think for that, you have to really go into it and look at this as a real business, having processes in place, pricing your services correctly, because your time is very valuable. Pricing low to get more clients, yeah, that's good to start out. But you always have to remember to value yourself and what value that you're bringing to people. Because if you go to McDonald's or you go to HEB or any of these big, large companies, they're pricing what they feel the value is of their product, or if you buy makeup or anything like that, those people price it, and that's what their pricing it is, and that's what's going to be the value. So I feel like with pet sitting, people always like to want to negotiate with you and like, oh well, it won't be that hard, it won't be that much to do to come over, and I'll pay you $10 or
Mm-hmm.
$15, or I want you to stay at my house for 24 hours and I'll pay you $50 a day because, oh, you get to stay in my home. No, that's a lot to take from somebody, for somebody to come into your home, leave their house. You have to remember, people are leaving their own personal families, leaving their own personal pets, and their everyday things that they have to do to come provide this specialized services for you and your pets. And I think when people go for the lower value and not wanting to go for the professional, or want to go for somebody that's like, oh, they're going to be cheaper. You get what you pay for in any aspect of life. When it comes to this industry or any other industry, you can find Joe Schmo down the road that claims that he can do it. Yeah, they might be able to get the job done, but there might be some issues coming out of that as well. So I would just say, if you're going to transition to being a professional pet sitter, that you make sure your things are in line as far as like your processes, your onboarding process, your hiring, and your prices that are you going to implement for the services that you're going to provide.
Mhm. So what I kind of hear you saying is like the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So even if you're, coming home for a summer vacation and wanting to do pet sitting on the side, take it seriously. Like start it off as a business because not only does that affect the industry standard for all of us, you may be coming in wanting to lowball the market and, just, jump in and jump out. But for the rest of us, we're continuing to have to build value and share why we're professional and share why we're trustworthy. And so basically, how you do anything is everything. So the day you start, the day you take your first client, the day you send your first invoice, come at it from more of a professional standpoint. So you're not working backwards and fighting an uphill battle with the customer versus
Correct.
just setting it the right way off day one.
Correct.
Now, you've been doing this over a decade. So, kind of tell us a little bit how you started maybe as a hobbyist and then your insight with the way you transitioned.
I would say when I first started, it wasn't a lot of guidance on how to run a pet sitting industry, pet sitting company. It was a lot of trial and error. You find all the things about marketing and how to put yourself out there, but there was no real backing or any like coaches really out there. It was everybody was like, jump in it and make six figures in 6 months. But they didn't want to tell you how to get to that point. No one wanted to kind of tell you, you need to put these policies into place or how to price yourself. You kind of just went on the fly of what people were offering you. And I think over the years, I started to just really understand the fact of people's time and the value that I actually brought in my experience, the training that I was doing, my background that I was bringing to my clients. And that was what made me stand out a little bit more compared to other people because how professional I was and how organized I was when it came to the services that I was providing. So that way, when I was able to hire new people and bring them on to help me grow my business, I was able to implement those standards to my staff. So I think over just the time is just learning and actually taking the time to understand how to run a business. May that be not even just a pet sitting company. You can learn a lot about running a business from under other industries. So that was kind of what I did. And then once I got to a point to where I could invest a little bit more into my continued education, I was able to, hire you as a coach and things like that and go to the automated CEO and learn how to run my business more as a CEO.
Why do you think people stay a hobbyist? Like, why do you think they have, or I hear a lot of people saying, I don't want to hire anyone. Like, I just don't want to deal with that. One of my good friends here in Houston, she like downsized her whole business and then she's got 10 clients now from having like a multiple six-figure company. So why is it that you think people end up just saying, you know what, I just want to kind of keep it a hobby. It's something I like doing on the side and I don't want any more than that.
I could see why people do that is because one, it's a lot to go into every day having to manage and push yourself and stay motivated to run a business with multiple staff members and having office managers and things of that nature. It's easier to just manage yourself. And sometimes it's easier to have that control of just what you want to do because you have the option of, hey, if I want to work this week, I can. But when you have a staff and people that kind of depend on you and then you have hundreds of clients that depend on you, it makes it a little bit more challenging. And you have to be organized, so you have to have a lot of systems in place so everything runs properly. And then some people also, they feel like I can just do it by myself. They don't want to be worrying about the next person or worrying about, oh, did they do that job correctly and things like that. So it's easier just to manage yourself. But if you want to grow and want to really make this into something that's sustainable, you have to have people to help you to be a CEO and be a business owner that wants to push the limits and to change something. You have to be able to manage your time and be the motivation to keep your business running.
Right. I mean, that's basically our belief in automated CEO as well. Like, it's one thing to say, I want to be a hobbyist, but on the other hand, you're hiring. Automated CEO is the leading local business operating system for coaches and service providers, helping you structure the front and back end of your turnkey operations on auto. Collaborate with their chief operations officers to transform your business in just 6 months. Whether you're looking to sell your business or simply find a life outside of your business, partnering with a virtual COO can make that possible, and the ball is going to keep on rolling. You're never going to have to stop and press go and stop and press go because I'm inconsistent because I'm running a hobby business. And that's a lot with what we see is that hobbyists will decide to close their doors and turn their lights off whenever they feel like it. They're like, "Oh, my clients understand. They get it." Do they really? Do they really? Or are
And
they just like, okay, I'm dealing with it right now. So, really, what are we bringing to the industry? How are we helping it move forward? If we're not expressing to the client day one that, listen, you can use me as a solo provider. However, when things happen to me, I'm not going to be able to come. And what does that look like for you, your family, and what backup plan do you have going in this direction? 9 times out of 10, people are not having that conversation because it's not a value add for an independent contractor. But for a
mm,
business owner, we have the conversation because we're like, oh, I'm comparing, you know, Jenny, who's $15, and you, who's $65. And we're like, let's talk about it. So, how are we prepared to have these conversations with customers when we are setting our pricing? and we are increasing our pricing. You all know that I'm one of the most expensive in everything I do. So $30 was the standard minimum for us post COVID because that's what we needed to survive. Now we're at $65 because we realize that we're training the customer as well. So, how do you articulate to the customer the difference between them and us?
I think for that, I always tell the customer at the very beginning, pet sitting is a luxury service. Because again, like you said just a few minutes ago, you can always go with the neighbor, you can go with the kid in the neighborhood. But people that come into the realm of wanting a professional pet sitter to come into their home, these are the type of people that want something very particular. They have a high value for their animal. They want this type of experience and they have very particular things like their animals have great food. They want to go out on walks. They are not high maintenance, but they treat their animals as a part of their family. So with
Mhm.
that, I always tell these clients, hey, listen, when between them and us, when we come over, you're gonna get a notification when we arrive. At the end of each visit, you're gonna get pictures, you're gonna get videos, you're gonna get a report. You're gonna know exactly knowing that we came to your house and what happened. And then when things come up, if you have last minute scheduling, we work as a team. So therefore, you always have somebody available. If anybody in my staff can come into your home and provide that service. I think for me, the game changer in my business was when I moved to that team collaboration style of work. Because at first I
Mhm.
was like, oh, just one sitter can go to one person's house. That's not scalable. Because if that one sitter gets sick, then they're the only one that has ever interacted with that, have only interacted with that client. They're the only one that kind of knows all the ins and outs about this client's home and things like that. So making it that everybody can do the same thing and run into that house in at any drop of a dime or anything that's changing, that is a game changer and makes clients feel a lot better. They're like, oh, I know I'm taken care of. But a person that's independent, if they get sick or they overbook themselves or they just like, oh, I'm just not going to do it. I don't want to do it anymore. That client is SOS. And then they're
Mhm.
scrambling. I see so many clients that go on Facebook or contact me that, oh, my sitter just canceled on me last minute. I've planned this Christmas trip for me and my family months ago. And now they're saying they can't do it. That's a hard thing for a client because you're like, you just feel helpless. And so now you're scrambling to do all these things because you could have just, you wanted to go with the cheaper price, but you can't. Now you have to pay a little bit more now because the person that you trusted or wanted to use is no longer available. So that's why I was telling them that's the difference between them and us. So
Mhm.
that's my approach to when I explain it to anybody. And I get it. Everybody's finances are different, but you pay for what you want.
Right. And I mean, I think that's the difference between people who are afraid to charge their worth or articulate the value. Again, we're not just making up a price based on the cost that it takes to leave your house, paying taxes, paying insurance, gas, mileage, and everything in between. This is the cost to just even breathe. Okay. To breathe, to just walk up and be like, hey, I have a job to do today. So it has to make sense. And we're no longer comparing. Like, we don't care what Jenny next door to us is doing. Like, they could be that. And we love that for them.
Yeah.
You charge 15, $20. I love that for you. Good for you. But over here, this is what it looks like. And clients get it. I have had clients so many times tell me that they went with me because I'm the most expensive. They're like, clearly you paying attention on what's going on. So even in the client's perspective, someone who actually can afford our services, they get it. They're like, "Oh, you know what I know, and let's move forward." But
Yeah.
someone who is maybe the cheapest on the block, they're like, "You know what? Clearly something's missing. Clearly they haven't hit the mark on any market research. So let's probably keep on going." And the customers who are price shopping tend to be the ones who are not considerate of what's going on to run a business. They're not considerate of your policies, or not considerate of team collaboration lifestyle, what it actually entails for us to get things done. I mean, I have a pest service that comes every single month and they send me different pest providers all the time. The guys come into my house, get access to my backyard. I'm not like, oh, who's this guy walking through? I'm like, they have a business to run and they have different territories, and this is what it takes to get service on a regular basis. They're
Exactly.
not balking at the way you run your business because they understand like this is what it takes. So I don't know. I don't think I could ever understand the hobby lifestyle just because I have children, I have a family, I have things I want to do. I could not imagine like leaving my 9 to 5 and having no PTO to then being a business owner with no PTO. like, I might as well just stay at my desk and like get a coworker to cover my shift. Whereas as a hobbyist, you don't have that.
Yeah,
So
you don't have PTO, you don't
what's the
have
value?
you don't have any of those things. So yeah, it's if you're gonna jump into this and actually do it, and again, you have to have a passion to be able to be any type of business owner. You have to love what you're doing. Anybody can. I would say anybody can physically run a business if you take the time to learn it and take the steps to do it. But like I said, being a hobbyist, I just couldn't do it anymore
Mhm.
because it was nowhere else to go. You were just always on the grind. You're always like hustling and bustling in, negotiating your prices and all those type of things. And people just undervalue you, and then you start to feel overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
so once you put those standards into place of, what you will accept and what you won't accept, and you weed out all those clients that you kind of don't want to work with,
Mhm.
because the clients that want you to show up for $10, they are typically the clients that want you to go above and beyond. They want you to clean up and do this and medicine for $10.
Yeah.
I can
I
never see.
find that all customers, like literally all, they all want you to go above and beyond, but it feels degrading when you've already charged the minimum you can possibly charge to get oxygen
Yeah.
versus you charging a comfortable lifestyle to where like, okay, I can get this done. And that's what I want everyone to understand, like going through your pet air is that, and I always say this, anytime you feel that like, ugh, feeling, or I do this for the customer, I go out of my way, or I've bent backwards for them, you're in the wrong conversation. You're not in a conversation with the customer, you're in a conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
So if you are thinking, okay, I've sold the customer that I am the only person that's going to take care of their dog, it's only my business, I'm going to be hands on, it's going to be a private service. You've sold to the customer that you are there at their beck and call. Like you sold that to them. This is
Hmm.
a private, exclusive, that's what you're saying. Hobbyist, just me, no one else. This is a private, exclusive rollout between you and I. So whatever I need when it comes to pets, you are them. They are you. You are we. Like
And you
that's
know
the
what?
way that we present it without even realizing it.
And as a hobbyist, and it can be a good niche for that if they price it right. You know what I mean? Because there are animals out here that need one person that can only handle them.
Mhm.
It's some dogs or cats or whatever the animal is that thrives better with just one person. You know what I mean? Like an aggressive dog that needs a lot of visits, and they take a long time, and all they can probably connect with is one person. That's all that dog can sustain. And that's perfectly fine.
At the time, at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
We should
And,
always be striving to get them back into reality, real world sick circumstances. But yes, for sure, for a significant amount of time, they need to build trust with
yeah.
someone.
And
But at
so,
the same time, we also need to move in that dog. And we handle multiple aggressive dogs. At
hmm
some point in time, we need to be moving that dog along, like in our training program now. We need to be moving that dog along to be able to understand that humans are not scary. You can do
yeah,
this. Like we understand that you've had bad experience or you've had lack of environment, but we can do this. We can do hard things. And so we
we can.
can lead the dog there too. But either way, I mean, even when I would say this as someone wanting to kind of open like the canister for everyone, thinking back, 9 years ago when I first started, and it was obviously us, the primary salesperson, us, the primary walker, sitter. The customer only knows us because we haven't hired anyone yet. Like, what would I have done if right now I'm listening to this podcast and it's just me, but I don't want my customer to get this bondage attachment with each other? I want to prepare my customer that in the future, I may reach out for help, even if it's just a competitor to help me out when I'm gone. We do that too. We piggyback with other businesses. How can I prep the customer right now that's only seeing me for future people?
I would say always putting the verbiage out that even the client doesn't have to know that it's just you.
Mm-hmm.
How you build out your business is what you put out. So if I started this over years ago, I would be like, oh, I would use the same words. We are a team collaboration. That team could be another company coming in to help me if I need help. and or just anybody that I trust that I've vetted it out to come in. May there be another independent contractor that works in the same area as me. That I am a team collaboration. So that way, you always know if you come to me and my company, you will always have coverage.
I
That's
love
really
it.
how I would have really started the verbiage of what I put out into the atmosphere when it comes to new clients. Because I think that pigeonholes you when you're like, oh no, it's just me. I'm a solo person. Because like you just said, that you build that relationship and that community with your clients, and they once you change up later, a few years later, they're like, oh, what do you mean? It's not gonna be you anymore. They're like, oh
Mhm.
no, I don't want them. They because you've had that client for so long and they're great clients to you, but they're like, oh, they don't want to work with anybody else. And so they start to make you feel bad, and then you have that emotional connection, and not a connection of you're wanting to grow. And so that can kind of pigeonhole you into a way of like, okay, well, I'll keep doing you, but I won't send anybody else over there. And then you don't want to have that relationship with your clients. So I would just say start out putting that verbiage out that, even if you want to say in the future, we will be a team collaboration. Or right now we are a team collaboration. Something of that sort, just so way your clients coming in already know what the standard is, that it's not always just gonna be you.
Right. In Automated CEO, we teach you to remove the word I entirely on your emails, on your website, all your copy, all your social media. No more I. Even when I post for myself, I still use Natasha as the third person. Like I still write for her, not I,
Yeah.
when it comes to a business page. So anywhere you see right now, I or my company or, I chose to remove all of it. Like go through your business with a fine-tooth comb and move I from everything. If you are signing out on your email signatures, you can sign out as we teach you as team this little dog of mine.
Yep.
Team automated CEO. There may not be a team, there may be a me and team in potential, but today it's team. So
It's
you're teaching your customer that there's other things happening in the business outside of myself.
yeah.
You don't even need to tell the customer that I don't have anyone yet or it's just me. I would say, hey, listen, congratulations. We're glad that you're part of our family. What I'm going to do is take some time to get to know your dog. And then once we've established that relationship, dog, cat, bird, chicken, what have you, then I'm going to go ahead and turn them over to our new employee or the next employee on our team. And they're going to be like, okay, when does that happen? When that does happen, you're going to get notified that a turnover is happening and you're going to get a photo of the new person that joined us on the visit every single time until they continue on their own. How does that sound? I always like to close out my customers with how does that sound? Is that fair? Just so they are on the same page with me and they're like, yeah, sounds good. Because the worst thing you want as a hobbyist turned new pet pro is for a customer to be all on board with your hobbyist lifestyle. And as soon as you want to start getting serious, they're like, oh, you're switching up on me. And you're
Yep.
like, wait, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, when you were small, it
Yeah.
felt a lot different. Mark, you can attest to this. Tell us your story and your pet era, like how that happened.
That's the word a lot of people love to use when you were just a small company. No, I'm still a small business,
Your little
but
business.
yes, I'm still a small business, but I'm trying to expand. I'm running a business, and for me to expand and grow and continue to provide the great service and experience that you've been having with my company, I have to expand. That doesn't make we're a Fortune 500 yet, but we are still considered a small business. And people like to guilt you into that, like, oh well, now you're no longer a small business. No, I'm still a small business. I'm still a
According to
small
Boss,
business.
400 employees. It's a lot. It's a small business.
So
So
yeah.
talk to them about like when that happened to you. Like tell us the story. Don't leave out anything. Give us the juice. If you've been intrigued by this episode, join us in the AC Universe. The AC Universe is our behind the scenes community outside of social media where we turn off distractions and dissect each episode. You can ask pressing questions about your business and discover how you can implement these ideologies you hear on each episode into your current operation. Subscribe now to dive deeper.
Well, I've had so many instances with that. So I had a client once that got very upset with me because they wanted us to give them a credit back on their account. They decided to cancel last minute. They knew what our cancellation policy was, and so as they canceled, we it was stated to them what was going to happen next. That they wouldn't get a refund on the payment they made because they canceled late, and they went into this rage of wanting to attack the company. And I've learned to learning this from you, don't take it personal. They're not attacking Mark. They're mad. They're more mad at the company and the policies. And I can't take it personal. And they got upset and they were like, well, when you were a smaller company, you were more flexible and you were more understanding. Yeah, I hadn't learned that part yet. I hadn't put these, processes in place so that I could be more stern in running my business correctly. So that way, when I started implementing these policies, it makes it easier. I don't have to go back and forth with anybody. We know what it is. It's black and white. You know,
Mhm.
and so with that, and I had to explain to the client, yes, we are still a small company. We are still going to always provide that great service to you, but these are our policies. So that way we can keep everything standardized. Everybody knows what's going on. It's never a surprise. So, I just didn't take it personally anymore. In the moment, it kind of upset me because I've bent over, in my opinion, I'm like, I've bent over backwards for this person. I've done all these things, but you have to stand steadfast in what you want in your growth of your business. You can't let anybody kind of sway you into feeling bad. It's like, no, I am growing. Yes, so things are going to change with anything, with any business that you work with. Things are going to change, and so your clients, they do eventually. You can just talk to them from a human perspective, and they get it after a while. They just get upset in the moment, and so
Mhm.
that's kind of what it was. I just talked to the client and explained to him like, hey, this is what our new policies are. This is why we're doing it, and they get it from that point of view. But in the moment, they just get a little upset.
Right. And it's okay for the customer to feel frustration when you're
Hmm.
trying to make that shift from like hobbyist, solopreneur to full-time business owner. You really want to explain to the customer, like you want to agree. So sales psychology, you always agree with the customer first and then lead them on. So I always say you're absolutely right. When I was only feeding myself, I was more than happy to take the losses. But
Yeah.
now that I have additional staff members, unfortunately, I cannot ask my employees to no longer get paid. You understand. And they do. Because they're like, oh, yeah, if I went to work today and our biggest deal just backed out, would you not take a paycheck home at all? And
Yeah.
they're like, "Yeah, I get it." So sometimes I tend to not explain as much, but if I have to break it down to a customer to say, "Yeah, listen, I would never expect my employees to come to work and not get paid." And when the clients don't pay us, the employees don't get paid. And therefore I can't offer you reliable service. I'm sure you understand. And they're like, "Yeah, I do understand." And then it's over.
Yeah.
Anytime you want to roll out new policies and they see different changes and things happening, that's when they start to feel like, oh, the business is getting bigger. If you want, as a hobbyist, start rolling out policies between your customers while it's just you. Like, start prepping your business for exiting owner dependence while it's just you. And you don't have anyone because you need the customer to start understanding that there's different policies in place to where, yeah, I have been taking the loss and I have been, cutting myself short for a while, but I don't deserve that either. So
Hmm.
what policy can I put in place now to make sure that doesn't happen for myself? Because I only can do that for so long. You only
Yeah.
can give out discounts for so long. You can only give out the new customer promotion for so long. So you need to be able to understand to that, like tell the client that, and maybe an analogy if you can find one, or just breaking it down human to human. Listen, like you said, Mark, we can't afford to just not get paid.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we won't be able to come. I see it all the time now, like restaurants that we love, they're closing down and they've been around for years. And we think that just because we love them and they've been in the neighborhood all our lives, like they could just stay open. They cannot. Like
Yeah.
if they do not raise the rates, if they do not stay relevant, if they do not, continue to push things forward, they will not remain open. And customers get it. They're like, oh man, I was so sad to see that business go. Well, wonder why it happened. Usually it's because of cash flow. And when
Ex-
customers cancel and they expect us not to eat that day, there's no cash flow
and we will no longer be around.
and we will no longer be around. So it's just understanding that. So we call it the rollout. You want to be able to roll things out to your customer while you're a hobbyist or a soloist. If you have a lockbox policy, roll it out to the customer now. Don't say, oh, yeah, it's cool. It's just me. I got 5 keys in my pocket. Sure. Like I'll just hold on to them. Mm-mm. Roll this stuff out now as a hobbyist. So then clients are used to getting emails with updates. Now, when you have 10 employees, they're not like, whoa, it's because of the 10 employees. No, we've always rolled things out. We're innovating. That's what makes us great. So
Yeah.
if you change the policy, if you change the concierge policy, like inform the customers. Don't be afraid to let them know. And also stop texting your customer. Like you personally texting them from your personal line makes them feel that they have that ownership attachment to you because you have owner dependence. Your business is dependent on you as the owner to thrive. So it's almost impossible to make that shift. Mark, going through our program, I would much rather have people make this shift as a solopreneur. Like if you set up all the automated processes as a solopreneur, your life will be so much easier by the time you get a team.
Exactly. And again, like I said, when starting out, it was nobody kind of showing exactly like these automated things. Everybody was still like, "Oh, answer the phone, do these things." Yeah, those are all great, but the more automated you can get, it will make your life easier. Even if, like I said, if you're a solo person starting out, get those automations in place. Get those things so they just roll out, and then as a solo person, you're just coasting. That's easy. If you're solo and you have everything automated, and it's just you, you're coasting. You don't have to worry
Mhm.
about it. You go do your job, pick up your dogs, go to the parks, go for your walks, and you're done.
Mhm. I remember when I first put everything into place and I was like, "Oh wow, like everything is on auto and what's not on auto is delegated." So now I can just enjoy my dogs. Like
Yeah,
now I can just go hang out with some cats and just chill and I'm not hanging out with dogs and cats all day and then getting home and then doing administrative all day. Like that's just not realistic. So I
yeah,
know someone's listening to us right now and is like, "Yes, that's me." I'm literally the doer all day doing the business. And then as soon as I close, I'm now doing invoices or scheduling or updating notes. Like my day never ends. And then I do it all over again. That is the reason why we have so much burnout. It has
boom.
nothing to do with compassion, animal compassion, like all these trigger words that we try to tell ourselves. It has nothing to do with any of that. You are burnt out because you are all over it. I could literally lose an animal in one day and be able to recover taking off 2 more days. But you losing an animal and then having to put a smile on your face and jump back in it for the next dog, like some of those things are not realistic. I want to be extremely sad and grieve the clients as they come.
Yeah,
Something we don't talk about. You may need some time off from that, but you can't even afford to do it. So you're just like, okay, I just lost one of my favorite dogs and now I got to run to the next house. Like, yeah, that's a little bit of reality, but at the same time, like if you're taking a hit emotionally, you should be able to say, listen, guys, I'm about to take tomorrow off. Today was a lot. I didn't even notice that coming, and I'm gonna take tomorrow off.
yeah.
And that's like unheard of conversation between pet providers.
The grieving process sometimes when it comes to us, because you got to think about it. Some of these dogs you're with them from when they are puppies to their seniors, or you get them at the midpoint of their life until they're seniors until they pass on, and you build that connection. They might not be your personal animal, but
Mhm.
you still will grieve the
You will
loss.
very much grieve that dog.
Yeah,
My first year in business, I think I lost like 10 dogs ish. My first year, 10, 15 dogs. Didn't even think about that part. Didn't think about that part. It was just like, I'm quitting my job. We're going to go hang out with animals. This is going to be great. We're going to roll out the red carpet for customers. They're going to love us and we're going to do it every day. Didn't think about client calling me and saying, "Hey, we lost one today." I'm like, what do I even say? What do I do? Like, where do we go from here? You don't think about that kind of stuff.
you don't, and
As
you
a hobbyist, you can't afford to think about it because you got to go right back to the saddle.
yeah. And like I said, that's burnout, and people complain about that. So you get when you get burnout, you get unmotivated and you
Mhm.
don't do anything. And so your business can't continue moving on. And so, like I said, that automation and getting some of that stuff off your plate really helps you a whole lot. Because that burnout is real. If you're doing everything by yourself, you just you're very unmotivated. You're just like, I can't even continue going on.
Well,
It takes
you go into a freeze. And so someone who's, has a couple clients right now and you're happy there, think about what happens when you do reach your breaking point or you do reach your burning point. and you are in, flight or flight, and then you just freeze and you're like, I'm not going to do anything. And then your client's off board and then they have other stuff going on. They don't use you anymore. I see in groups all the time people getting so emotionally upset when a client cancels. I'm like, that's their right. That's the client's right to cancel. They're like, they literally see their meal ticket walking out the door and they're like, I can't believe they're no longer using us. And I'm like, yeah, their life changed. You provide a service. You do not
Yeah,
live with this family. You are not their blood. You are not part of their family as much as you've wanted to convince yourself you are. You provide a service. And when the service is no longer needed, the client is very much moving forward. So, whatever emotional attachment and breakup that you're going, because I feel like it's really a breakup, like being in a relationship with
yeah,
anybody or anything, and then it's just over. It's like you literally getting broken up with, every couple months. And they
yes,
really take it as that. Like, could you imagine being in a relationship and you keep jumping in new relationships, and then it's another breakup and another breakup every couple,
yep.
every 6 months or so?
That is
Like,
exactly
they take it emotionally, like an emotional hit. Like, the client, how dare them leave them? Like, what will they do? And that's just because you've put so much into your independent business and that client instead of looking at it as a professional business, as you being a professional provider.
exactly.
Marcus, if there's any like tips or, things you would have known or wish you would have done to help someone in their pet era, what would it be?
The one tip I would say is always put yourself first and your emotions and your mental health when it comes to your business, because your body is what you're working on. When you're out being a pet sitter, your body is what keeps you moving, that makes your money. I would say make sure you are in good health at all times. And secondly, don't get so emotionally attached to clients. They're not attacking you personally, they're just upset or frustrated about certain things that you may have changed in the business. It's not you personally. Don't take it personal. Don't take it to heart. Don't let it ruin your full day. And thirdly, just remember, I would just say remember to why you started doing it. Take and remember that when you go out every day and you decided to become a pet sitter and a dog walker, you wanted that freedom of being able to get up, be active, be around animals. And that's the joy of this industry. It's a great endorphin release. You get to be happy, be around animals. Yeah, sometimes you have good days, sometimes you have bad days, but just always remember when you get out there, just be happy about what you're doing because you have that freedom as either you are a hobbyist or a business owner. Some people don't have that freedom to be able to go out every day and do something that they actually enjoy. And
Hmm.
so all the other stuff, running the business, yeah, all that stuff is important. But if you are unhappy every day when you go out to do something that you decided to do as something that you were happy about, you might need to change something. So all the other things we talked about, great, but just go do it and be happy and do and just be excited about what you're doing every day. That's my whole thing that I look at every day, that I have the freedom to get up every day and go do something that I actually enjoy.
Amen to that. Well, Mark, thank you for coming on the Pet Era podcast with us today. It's always a pleasure to have you. Would love to have you back because there's so many more gems you have in there that we only can unplug in one episode. So, if you are enjoying this show, you can join us in the Automated CEO universe where we talk about things that you love, disloved in the show. Join us, automatedceo.com, the universe, and we'll see you there.
All right, see you later.